Well, guys, it's now time for my Week 15 picks of the 2025 NFL season. Hard to believe we're almost near the end of the year, as last week I went 8-6. I had a horrible week. 1 p.m. games it was. Yeah, I had a horrible stretch at 1 p.m. start off. Just terrible, awful week. And of course, here is the playoff stands and the regular season stands at the season end of the day. In the AFC, it's the Broncos with the bye, with Texans at Patriots, Bills at Jaguars, and Chargers at Steelers. And the NFC, it's the Rams with the bye, with Bears at Packers, 49ers at Eagles, and Seahawks at Buccaneers. And my Super Bowl prediction right now is the Rams over the Broncos. All right, so now it's time for my Week 15 picks. Starting off with Thursday night, a still big game in the NFC South, as it's the Falcons at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers won the last one. The Falcons haven't beaten them since 2024, and the Buccaneers haven't beaten the Falcons at home since 2022. So the Falcons, of course, eliminated from the playoffs after they got destroyed by the Seahawks and such. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers embarrassingly lost to the Saints, as they are just in complete freefall, kind of like how they are the last few years. Get off to a hot start, and then they crap out near the end of the bed until they all of a sudden get hot at the end of the year. Very disappointing start for the Buccaneers. Remember, they were 6-2 earlier on in the year. Now they've gone 7-6. Yikes. But yeah, I'm picking the Buccaneers for this one. All right. And of course, they need to win to keep ahead of the Panthers, too. If they lose, the Panthers take the division lead. Who would have thought that would be the case? All right, but anyways, then we get to the Sunday game, starting off with a big one in the AFC North, as it's the Ravens at the Bengals. The Bengals won the last one. The Ravens haven't beaten them since 2024, and the Bengals haven't won home against them since 2022. As the Bengals, if they lose this game, they are eliminated from the playoffs. Oh yeah, if they lose and the Steelers win, there we go. If they lose, Steelers win, they are eliminated. As the Ravens, of course, hard fought and choked fest against the Steelers pretty much, as they've now lost 2 in a row. And now the Bengals, they had a really hard-fought fight game against the Bills. It looked like they were going to maybe pull off the upset again, and then they shit the bed on those 2 straight interceptions on those drives that Burrow had. Just complete implosion the Bengals had. They should have won that. And their chance of winning the make a playoff spot really imploded with that. Man, if they just won that game, they would have been a really good spot. Now they're like on lifeline, almost like the Ravens. But I am going to pick the Bengals for this one. And then it's the Raiders at the Eagles for the first time since 2017. The Raiders won the last one. The Eagles haven't beaten them since 2017. And the Raiders haven't won in Philly since 2001. As the Raiders, of course, lost to the Broncos. Still somewhat, although the score, it was not a close game, but the score made it look somewhat close. The Eagles, meanwhile, have lost 3 in a row. And what an ugly performance against the Chargers, as freaking Jalen Hurts had 0 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, plus that fumble and that 2 turnover draw, a free turnover play. My goodness. Yep, the Eagles really are just like in 2023, complete free fall after the Super Bowl appearance. Nothing's going right for them, but thankfully for them, the Raiders are terrible, so this should be an Eagles victory, so I'm picking them. Then it's the Cardinals at the Texans for the first time since 2017. 2023. The Texans won the last one. The Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2021. And they haven't beaten the Texans in Houston yet. As the Texans are trying to get another win season, the Cardinals lost. Won't come to my head, but they did lose their game. I know that very much. Although for some reason it just will not come to my head who they lost to. The Texans, meanwhile, beat the Chiefs in a beautiful defensive slugfest, as they are now 1 win away from getting over 500, and they are now in the playoffs at the moment. So let's see if they can maintain it, as they have that incredible defense, but their offense is still very not trustable. But I trust that defense, of course, so I'm going to pick the Texans to win this one. And then our next game is a big one in the AFC West, as it's the Chargers at the Chiefs, as the Chargers won the last one. The Chiefs haven't beaten them since 2024, and the Chargers haven't won in Kansas City since 2021. And the Chiefs, if they lose and the Texans or Bills win, they will be eliminated from the playoffs for the first time since 2014, like the longest streak in league in the playoffs, and it's about to be almost eliminated. Wow, that's hard to believe. The Chargers, meanwhile, hard-fought game against the Eagles, although their offense played terrible. Their defense, though, however, showed up and was beautiful. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, of course, they embarrassed themselves on Sunday night, losing to the Texans, and mostly because Mahomes completely crapped himself. No touchdowns, 3 interceptions. You don't see that from him. He was terrible. And now his stats are even worse than last year, which is incredible because he was so terrible the first part of last year. Yikes. Oh boy, this still is somewhat of a tough game. I don't know if I can fully trust the Chargers to pull it off the second time around like they did in week 1. So, maybe a bold choice, but I'm still going to pick the Chiefs for this one. But if the Chargers get it, I wouldn't be surprised. Alright, then after that, it's a huge AFC East matchup, and now I remember the Rams destroyed the Cardinals. Anyways, huge AFC matchup, as it's the Bills at the Patriots. The Patriots won the last 2, the Bills haven't beaten them since 2024, and they haven't won in Foxborough since 2022. Patriots, if they beat the Bills, they will make the playoffs for the first time since 2021, and they will win the AFC East for the first time since 2019. It'll be the first time someone other than the Bills won it for once. And if they do lose, they still can get into the playoffs with some certain losses. So a lot on the line here. Bills need to win this to keep alive in the division race. Oh my goodness. After they beat the Bengals in a hard-fought game too, they almost didn't pull it off in the end. Meanwhile, the Patriots came off their bye after they humiliated and destroyed the Giants on Monday night. Gee, who would have thought that was going to happen? No one. Yeah, this could be a hard-fought game, and the Patriots should not underestimate the Bills. Think of this like in 2021. Remember, the Patriots had that big lead, the Bills are far back, and then the Bills made the comeback, won the division as the Patriots crapped their way down the stretch. So do not underestimate the Bills, Patriots. But I am going to still pick the Patriots for this one, but if the Bills win, I wouldn't be surprised. And then it's the Jets at the Jaguars for the second year in a row. As the Jets won the last one, the Jaguars haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won in Jacksonville since 2019. As the Jets, of course, got destroyed by the Dolphins. Meanwhile, the Jaguars completely destroyed the Colts, as they now have a winning season for the first time since 2023, and now they're in the driver's seat to take the division, although I'm still not sure if I can fully trust them, especially Trevor Lawrence is still not fully trustable, although he's played good the last few games. But Jets suck. I'm picking the Jaguars, obviously. And then the Tank Bowl, pretty much, as it's the Commanders at the Giants. The Giants won, the Commanders, won the last 3. The Giants haven't beaten them since 2023. The Commanders, of course, got shut out by the Vikings. Jaden Daniels got injured again, as this season's just been terrible for them. Giants, meanwhile, they came off their bye after they got destroyed by the Patriots. And yeah, nothing's going right, of course, for them still. But, see how they've been playing the last few weeks? And how Dart's been playing in comparison? I'm actually going to pick the Giants for this one. Then it's the Browns at the Bears for the first time since 2017. The Browns won the last 2. The Bears haven't beaten them since 2017. And the Browns haven't won in Chicago since 1969. As the Browns, of course, had that hard-fought game against the Titans. And they really should have won that game. They outplayed. I felt they were a much better team than the Titans. But their defense did not show up. Shedeur Sanders actually played very good, but just couldn't get the job done thanks to their defense and such. Yikes. That one rushing touchdown Pollard had. Terrible defensive effort right there. That should have been an easy victory. Meanwhile, the Bears, of course, had a hard-fought game against the Packers, but not surprised they couldn't get the job done. Now they're back into being a wild-card team, but I am obviously going to pick the Bears for this one. Alright, then it's the Panthers at the Saints. As the Saints won the last one, the Panthers haven't beaten them since 2024, and they haven't won in New Orleans since 2022. As the Panthers came off their bye after they knocked off the Rams. How about that? An incredible game. Bryce Young. Again, the Panthers have just been inconsistent so far. One week they look terrible, the other week they look amazing. It's really weird. If they want to make the playoffs, they have to be more consistent than that. And of course, if they win or the Buccaneers lose, they will take the division lead with a big opportunity coming up for them. So yeah, big on the line for them. The Saints, meanwhile, embarrassed the Buccaneers. They've beaten both the Panthers and the Buccaneers this year. That's incredible. So big win for them, although not going to mean much for them since they're eliminated from the playoffs, and they still are one of the worst teams in the league. This will be kind of interesting, and you know what? I might go with an upset and pick the Saints on this one, seeing how they played a few weeks ago, and I still don't fully trust the Panthers. Alright, then we get to the 4 p.m. game, start off with a big one in the NFC, as it's the Lions at the Rams for the first time since 2021. The Lions won the last one, the Rams haven't beaten them since 2021, and the Lions haven't won in the road on the Rams since 1993. And the Rams, if they win, and I think a couple other things go their way, or if they just win, they'll be in the playoffs for the 3rd year in a row. The Lions, meanwhile, beat and destroyed the Cowboys on Thursday night last week with still elite offensive performance, as they're still trying to stay alive in the wildcard race, let alone the division race. They're out of the playoffs at the moment. The Rams, meanwhile, completely destroyed the Cardinals beautifully on last Sunday, as once again, they still look like the best team in the NFL. Beautiful sight. It's going to be a hard-fought game. They should not underestimate the Lions, but I am going to trust the Rams to pull this one off, to get into the playoffs. Then it's a big outer conference matchup as it's the Colts at the Seahawks for the first time since 2017. As the Seahawks won the last two, the Colts haven't beaten them since 2013, and they haven't won in Seattle since 2000. As it's a big game for both teams. First off, the Colts try to get their first win season since 2023 after they got destroyed by the Jaguars, and even worse, they hit Daniel Jones. There we go. His name wouldn't come to my head. Got injured, and he's out for the year. So that's really bad for them. It got so desperate for the Colts that they actually re-signed Phillip Rivers, who's been on retirement for the last 5 years pretty much, on the verge of maybe being on the verge of potentially getting into the Hall of Fame this February. So now his clock's going to be reset for another 5 years. Last I heard, because I've been busy with stuff, he was on the practice squad and not even signed yet, so maybe I'll look that up really quickly. So who knows if he's even going to be started or not. That might be a little too early to have him start so soon. Meanwhile, the Seahawks destroyed the Falcons last week in a beautiful defensive performance. As despite the fact that they could potentially go 11-3, they won't be in the playoffs yet. That's quite wild and such. As looking this up right now, and yes, he is indeed signed with the Colts. Who knows if he's going to be starting or not for sure yet. But either way, regardless, I'm going to pick the Seahawks for this one. Unless Phillip Rivers somehow pulls off an insane performance, but I'm just not as trusted after not playing in 5 years. And then we get to another big outer conference matchup, as it's the Packers at the Broncos for the first time since 2023. The Broncos won the last one. The Packers haven't beaten them since 2019, and they haven't won in Denver since 2007. The Broncos, if they win, and I think the Texans lose and such, they will, and the Colts lose too, because the Colts have the tiebreaker, remember. But if they win and a bunch of teams lose, they will be in the playoffs for the second year in a row, as they will still try and maintain that number one seed right now. Huge game for them. The Packers beat the Bears in a defensive struggle last week. Meanwhile, the Broncos beat the Raiders. I just mentioned that earlier. Another hard-fought game. Both elite defenses with inconsistent offenses, although I trust the Packers' offense more than I trust the Broncos. And that's why maybe in an upset, I'm going to pick the Packers for this one. But if the Broncos win, I wouldn't be surprised. Then it's the Titans at the 49ers for the first time since 2017. As the Titans won the last one. The 49ers haven't beaten them since 2017. And the Titans haven't won on the road since 2009. As the Titans, of course, got their second win, even though I still don't think it was deserved. Because God, Cam Ward played like shit, and yet they still won because the Browns defense side did not play at all. Meanwhile, the 49ers came off their bye after they played their last game, which won't come to my head who they played and all, but they won, I know that, as they're trying to get to 10 wins, and I'm going to pick the 49ers, obviously, for this one. Alright, then we get to Sunday night, which should have been taken off the list, as it's the Vikings at the Cowboys for the first time since 2019. As the Cowboys won the last three, the Vikings haven't beaten them since that 2019 game, which was also on Sunday night. And the Cowboys haven't won against them at home since 2013. The Vikings, if they lose, or if other teams win, they will be eliminated from the playoffs. They need to win. But who knows? By the time they play, they might be eliminated regardless what happens. But they need a win, and they need a lot of teams to lose to stay alive in the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, they're not going to be eliminated if they lose, but they're going to really be in a tough spot if they do lose. They really need to win this. The Vikings, of course, after they got shut out 2 weeks ago by the Seahawks, they shut out the Commanders, which was the first time in NFL history that happened. Back to getting shut out 1 week and then shut out an opponent the next week. So that's very funny. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, Dak played terrible against the Lions. Their defense sucked ass once again. Nothing's seeming right for them. They're so inconsistent. But I still trust the Cowboys offense more, so I'm going to pick them to get the victory. And I hit the wrong button. There we go. And then we get to Monday night. It's a big matchup, even though it doesn't really seem to matter much, as it's the Dolphins at the Steelers for the first time since 2019, which was also Monday night. And the Dolphins won the last one. The Steelers haven't beaten them since 2019, and the Dolphins haven't won Pittsburgh since 2013. The Dolphins, if they lose, and I think that's it. If they lose, I don't know if teams needing to win would knock them out. I'm not sure. Maybe they'll still be eliminated regardless, but if they lose, they're definitely going to be eliminated if teams also win too. Meanwhile, the Steelers need a win and a Ravens loss to keep a big, comfortable lead in the AFC North. So the Dolphins, meanwhile, destroyed the Jets last week. Meanwhile, the Steelers, hard-fought game against the Ravens, and they're back over 500 finally. And with that victory over the Ravens, I think that's going to put them easily in the driver's seat now to win the AFC North, even if they're not very impressive. And obviously, I'm going to pick the Steelers for this one. So those are my picks for Week 15. I cannot wait for Falcons and Buccaneers tonight. So my picks are the Buccaneers over the Falcons, the Bengals over the Ravens, the Eagles over the Raiders, the Texans over the Cardinals, the Chiefs over the Chargers, the Patriots over the Bills, the Jaguars over the Jets, the Giants over the Commanders, the Bears over the Browns, the Saints over the Panthers, the Rams over the Lions, the Seahawks over the Colts, the Packers over the Broncos, the 49ers over the Titans, the Cowboys over the Vikings, and the Steelers over the Dolphins. Alright, so that's going to wrap it up here. See you all next week for my Week 16 picks.